Hey everyone, it's been almost a year since I made my other handmade puzzle, the Master Axis Cube. So during the Christmas holidays I decided to make another handmade puzzle, and it's another Axis Cube, but this time it's pillowed. And this appears to be the very first pillowed Axis Cube on the internet. I'm not sure why no one else has tried this, but I'm very happy to be the first. That was one of the main reasons why I made this puzzle. The other main reason is because I don't have an Axis Cube, so I just decided to go ahead and make my own, and it turned out to be a very special one. And also just look at it, I mean, it looks awesome. This puzzle was made out of a Diansheng 3x3, because it was available in a shop. This is actually a wall cube that I made out of Diansheng. But just to give you an idea of how it turns, it's very smooth, and because it has springs, it can corner cut, and so it was a very good candidate to make a cube out of. So because of how smooth the actual original puzzle was, this puzzle is also very smooth. It even corner cuts almost as much, actually probably more than the original puzzle. And because the original puzzle was that good, it's actually algorithm worthy. So I can do a T-perm here. So that's what a T-perm looks like on an Axis Cube. Before I started making this puzzle, I had actually considered just buying an Axis Cube from somewhere and pillowing that. But I ended up just starting the cube from scratch because, to be honest, the building process is actually pretty fun. So I wanted to do that, and I didn't really want to wait for an Axis Cube to come from overseas because that would take too long. So I just bought a cube from a store that was the Diansheng, and just built the puzzle from scratch. The actual build of this puzzle wasn't too difficult because I already had experience in making Axis cubes from this beast here. So the basic structure of the Axis Cube wasn't too difficult to make. The only problem I encountered was, of course, pillowing the puzzle, which I had no idea how to do beforehand. But I crossed that hurdle when I got to it. Now I'm going to give you a brief overview of the steps involved in making this puzzle. So the first step is obviously to make an Axis Cube, which can then be pillowed later. So to make an Axis Cube, what you do is cut off certain sections of the puzzle, like in this picture, and then glue them into a triangular shape like this. After you've done that to all 6 sides that need to be cut off, you get a diamond shape and 6 of those triangular shapes. Afterwards, you take your triangular little pyramid or whatever it is and place it on the top of a side that hasn't been cut yet, which is the side with the stickers in this picture. So if you do that to all 6 sides, what you get is a cube again, and that's the Axis Cube. What you have to make sure is, before gluing that triangular shape onto the cube, you have to cut it up in such a way that when you glue it onto the cube, the slices of the cube match up with what you've cut into the triangular shape. It'll make more sense in this video. Here I've glued one of the triangular shapes onto the puzzle. And as you can see, I've done it in such a way that the puzzle still turns. Sometimes the pieces that you have to glue on can be very thin and fragile, like this one, so you have to make sure that you do a very good and careful job when supergluing. Here's a picture of what it looks like when 3 of the sides are done. And finally, this, once you've done it to all 6 sides, this is the result. So this is basically an axis cube, of course without all of the holes in the plastic filled in with epoxy filler. But if you did want to have just a regular cubic axis cube, you could just fill in all of the gaps and you'd have your puzzle. But my goal was, of course, to have a pillared puzzle, so I didn't do that at that point. At first I had virtually no idea on how to go about actually pillowing the cube, so all I did was I just plopped some milliput on the top of the axis cube structure that I had made before. So as you can see in this picture, I just put it on the top of the cube, and then what I ended up doing was getting a bowl like this, because if you think about it, a bowl is just spherical, and this portion here is just part of a sphere, I guess. So what I did was I got the side with the milliput on top. I wet it a bit so it was slippery and could easily slide across the plastic, and I just went like that. And that was what gave it a curved surface, as you can see in this picture. The problem after that was that you couldn't see the slices anymore, the slices in the cube. So what I ended up doing was getting like a laminated piece of paper like this and just cutting through the milliput so that you could see the slices again, like you can see in this picture here. After the cube was sanded and everything, the next part was to spray paint the puzzle. So I just did every piece individually. All I had to do next was just hand cut every sticker. I couldn't just order it online because there weren't any pillowed axis cube stickers available, obviously. So I ended up cutting out stencils out of a clear plastic like this and made it so that the plastic fit the piece like that. And I didn't have to make separate stencils for the other side because you could just flip the stencil around like that, and that fits that side too. So what the process looks like is I just grab a stencil, stick it on the sticker sheet. These are actually from CubeSmith, and draw a border around it, cut it out, and stick it on, just like in this time-lapse video. And that took quite a long time. Overall, I'm very pleased with how this puzzle turned out, mainly because I didn't know if this idea of making a pillowed axis cube would succeed or not, but it did succeed and the puzzle looks great. That just shows that you don't really have to be an experienced puzzle maker to make a good looking handmade puzzle. So like I said before, the turning on this is very smooth. At first when I put the stickers on, the puzzle didn't turn that well. There was a bit of resistance when you turned it, and that was probably because of the spray paint that I used. It's not that great. But then afterwards I put some Maru lubricant in there, and that just fixed up everything. It turns so smoothly now. And like I said before, it cuts corners very well too. because this is the very first pillowed axis cube, I'm sure none of you have seen what the internal pieces look like. So I'll just show you them now. So that's an edge piece. You see the curve to it. There are a few markings there from, I could have sanded it a bit more, but that's okay. So this is one of the big corner pieces. Looks nice and shiny. And again, that's the curve. Is the other corner. Looks completely different to the other one. And again, there's a nice curve to it. Now the biggest difference is probably in the center pieces. So that's a cap for the center. That's what it looks like. Now I'll show you what it looks like on the regular original Diansheng puzzle. So that was what the original cap looked like, and that's what it looks like now. You can see the difference. It's crazy, huh? For those of you that don't know how an axis cube mechanism works, it's basically just a 3x3 core mechanism, but I think the axis has shifted 60 degrees or something like that. So if you look at it this way, that's the top face, right? But the axis is pointing that way. I think it's 60 degrees. So I think there's nothing really left to do except scramble this puzzle up, so let's do that. I've already solved this puzzle a few times, so I'm not too worried about having to solve it later. The alignment of the layers is definitely not as much an issue as it was on the master axis cube. So because the cube does cut corners a little bit, you can allow for misaligned layers. But if it's too misaligned like that, you can't turn it. So you have to make sure that it's properly aligned so you can then turn it. There's probably more of a problem on the master axis cube because there's more pieces in the 4x4 version. So there we have it. That's a scrambled, pillowed axis cube. One thing to add is, if you don't know how to solve an axis cube, it's actually pretty simple. It's just like a 3x3 Rubik's Cube. You have to look at it like a 3x3 Rubik's Cube. So that's the top face, the middle face, and the bottom face, and just like a 3x3. Right? So that's the center, just like the center there. That's an edge, that's an edge, that's an edge, that's an edge, just like the 4 edges that we have here. And the triangular ones are the corners, just like the 4 corners. So that's it for this video on the pillowed axis cube. I'll leave a link in the description or somewhere on the screen for the video on the master axis cube. So thank you for watching and see you next time.